Mark Rutte is set to take over as NATO Secretary-General in October. He's been a fierce critic of Russian President Vladimir Putin and a staunch ally of Ukraine. Rutte, who honed his skills as a political deal-maker during nearly 14 years as Dutch Prime Minister, has been one of the driving forces behind Europe's military support of Kiev. He says Moscow's defeat on the battlefield is vital to securing peace in Europe. So what challenges lie ahead for Mark Rutte and the military alliance? Well, Jamie Shea is a former NATO Deputy Assistant Secretary-General for emerging security challenges.
I think that Mark Rutte was probably the best candidate who was available. As you know, the choice of NATO Secretary-General traditionally goes to a European. NATO, therefore, has 30 European member states, and recently it's also gone to a Prime Minister. So if you say that, therefore, the choice is really among 30 European Prime Ministers, that's not a very big pool. And I think if you look at that pool of candidates, then Rutte was the best. He was Prime Minister of the Netherlands for 14 years, so he's been in the job for the longest period of time. He's led 4 coalition governments in that period, so he knows a lot about the NATO skills of negotiation, diplomacy, compromise, keeping the family together. He's also demonstrated, particularly to the United States, that he's capable of delivering. He's got the Dutch defence budget up to the NATO benchmark of 2% of GDP as well, which was not so evident a few years ago. So I think he has a lot in terms of a pragmatic, transatlantic, get things done, a politician, skillful at keeping the family together. I think he's got those essential qualities that NATO is looking for.
And of course the US election is looming in November. How could that impact the strategic direction of a NATO under Mark Rutte's leadership?
Well, he's made it a big point to be in Washington quite a lot over the last couple of years to meet Biden and, of course, also Donald Trump, given that if you look at the US opinion polls at the moment, Trump is in the lead in many of the swing states. So there is a good prospect that he will come back to the White House. So I think one of the reasons why Rutte has been selected as the next NATO Secretary-General is the Allies believe that he's probably, like Jens Stoltenberg before him, the best man to make the case to either US president that NATO represents a good investment. Now, of course, it will be easier if Biden is re-elected because Biden has made it clear that he likes NATO and that the US, as long as he's in the White House, will always respect the Article 5 collective defense guarantee, and Biden, of course, has been committed to Ukraine. It will be more difficult, we know this, if Trump is re-elected, given that he's been more skeptical about the value of the Europeans and the value of the NATO alliance. But Stoltenberg demonstrated that with a little bit of persuasion and showing that, Trump was successful in convincing the Europeans to spend more on defence, you can convince even Donald Trump to eventually like NATO and to see it as a plus rather than a minus for the United States, and to make sure that the US, in the meantime, continues to participate in NATO exercises and to also put its forces in Poland and Central Europe because they're very necessary for NATO's defence. So it's not mission impossible with Trump, but you need a skilled diplomat who is able to get Trump's attention. And again, I think Rutte was chosen because probably of the existing European prime ministers qualified for the job, he has the best address book when it comes to the US Republican Party.